Salutations, meatbags. I'm your non-binary host with the most, Mr. Bones. Welcome to a series that I'm going to try out where I will pick one of my favorite musical artists and run through my 4 favorite albums of theirs weekly. So today, we're starting with the first artist slash band, the Beatles. I'm not going to explain who the Beatles are. If you've been living under a rock for the last few decades, that then you wouldn't know who the Beatles are. But everyone knows who the Beatles are. We've all heard Yellow Submarine, or I Want to Hold Your Hand, or Come Together at some point. We all know who the Beatles are. So, this week, I'm going to run you through my 4 favorite Beatles albums of all time, starting today with Rubber Soul. Their album right before Revolver. This is when they started getting experimental for the first time, lightly, of course, but it's still there. This is the first album with Indian influence, with sitars on it, and songs like Norwegian Wood. This is a very fun album. I very much enjoy it. It's a very fall album. It's weird, but like, whenever I listen to this album, it makes me think of fall. It's a very fun album. I enjoy it. There are no skips on this album. I don't think it's a perfect album. I understand this is George Harrison's favorite Beatles album, and I can understand why it's a perfectly good album. Again, it's my 4th favorite Beatles album. I just don't think it flows very well. It doesn't feel cohesive all the way through. Sometimes when I listen to it, I'm like, no, this is fine. But other times I'm like, feels a bit clunky in parts. So that's why it's only at 4th. However, this does have one of my favorite Beatles songs on it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in my top 4. And that is Nowhere Man. I know that's a very basic answer, but Nowhere Man is a great song with great lyrics, and I love the story and message of the song. It's just so catchy and so great. I also really like Michelle. I like Norwegian Wood. I like Girl. Just a bunch of great songs, but Nowhere Man is my favorite. I think that the ideas they're trying to convey in that song about feeling isolated, alone, like you're making plans for nobody, you feel lost, you don't know where you're going, just are very interesting, and they're delivered in such an emotional and passionate way. Also, other than Abbey Road and an album we'll talk about later in this series, Rubber Soul has the most iconic Beatles album cover of all time. No one will ever be able to change my mind. Just look at it. It's just so good. So yeah, Rubber Soul is my 4th favorite Beatles album. Tune in tomorrow where we'll talk about my next favorite Beatles album. Until next time, I'm a non-binary host with the most, Mr. Bones.